So a quick review of what we learned today from your classmates discussing venir and the passé récent. So venir means to come. It is an irregular verb. We will be learning how to conjugate IR verbs later on in the semester, but we don't need to know that pattern for venir. It's most commonly used with three things. So it's used to state your hometown or your nationality. So in French, we tend not to say I am from, we say I come from. It can be used with places, so pretty similarly to how we use it in English. So if you want to say like, are you coming with us to the cafe, or something like that. And it's also used to conjugate the recent past. So here are our conjugations of venir. Okay, hopefully you had these written down on your notes today. If you did not add them into your blue verb book, go ahead and do so. They're going to go on page 16. So find your RE verbs, attendre and then prendre, skip 2 spaces, and then we're going to add venir. So you can see that we almost have a sort of pattern going on here. We have je viens, tu viens, il, elle, on vient. In the plural, we switch to nous venons and vous venez. We don't hear much of a difference, but we've dropped that I out of the stem. And then our third person plural, il and elle viennent, sounds pretty similar to the other ones. We've now added that I back in and doubled our N before adding on the ENT. So questions 1 and 2. Conjugate venir for the following subjects. So how would you say I come, and how would you say you come in the plural? The passé récent. Okay, so our next tense that we're learning in this chapter. Okay, so it's used to express what has very recently happened. So this is your first past tense, but just like the future proche, it's only used for things that have happened very, very recently. So you really can't go back more than about a day, possibly 2 with the passé récent. More than that, and it's going to sound extremely strange. That's because it's usually translated to English as that you just did something. Okay, so we can say, like, oh, I just did such and such a thing this morning. Hey, but we're really not going to say, like, oh, I just did that last summer. It's too far away. So to conjugate the passé récent, okay, we'll figure out our conjugation of venir, and then we'll add de before the infinitive. Okay, this is different than the future proche, where we could connect aller directly to the infinitive. If we think about it in English, we actually do something very, very similar. So in the future proche, we could say, I'm going to play, for example, and the going and the to play are next to each other. Well, but even though we translate the passé récent in French as just did something, in French we're actually saying that you're coming from doing something. Okay, that's why we use the verb venir. Okay, but we need to come from doing something, and that's what the de is telling us. Remember that a de will contract with an infinitive that begins with a vowel. So if we look at 2 examples, okay, if I wanted to say je viens de manger, so I just ate, versus nous venons d'ouvrir, we just opened, a common phrase you might hear in a store or something like that. Since ouvrir begins with an O, which is of course a vowel, we have to contract the de into D apostrophe. So translate the following sentences into English. If someone told you, il vient de dessiner, what do they mean? Okay. Or if they said, Elle vient d'attendre pour 10 minutes. What would that mean? Question number 5, your turn. Okay, so let's see if you can translate the following sentence into French. So, how would you tell me that you just did your homework?